Hi guys, welcome back again to my YouTube channel. My name is Abiola, and in today's tutorial we're creating this crop top. Okay, the inspiration we're working with has a shoulder pad, but I didn't wear a shoulder pad in this video. Even though I already filmed the tutorial on it, I don't know, I just did not wear the shoulder pad. If you want me to drop that tutorial, please tell me in the comments and I would ensure to drop it. The tutorial for the skirt I paired with this top is already up on the channel. Do well to check the comment section and the description box for the link. Okay, so let's head into the tutorial of today. In the making of this crop top, the first thing we're going to mark is the shoulder to the bust point. Mine is 10 inches, which I would mark. Then the next step is to mark where you want your crop top to stop. Mine will stop at 15.5, which I marked. Then I added 0.5 inch seam allowance, which I later increased to 1. I'll go ahead to mark the same thing to enable me get a straight line. I'll mark the 10, the 15.5, and 16, and I'll connect the points with my ruler, and I'm going to go ahead to label the point. I'm going to label the bust point. I'm going to label the waistline, and I'm going to label the allowance line. Like I said earlier, I increased my allowance from 0.5 inch to 1 inch, which implies that I went ahead to mark 16.5 inches. Okay, I'll connect the lines and I'm going to label that part allowance line. I'll also use my red marker to indicate where my allowance is at. The next thing is to mark my shoulder divided by 2. My shoulder width is 15. 15 divided by 2 gives 7.5. Okay, I'm going to go down by 1 inch from the shoulder to indicate the shoulder slope, since our shoulder is not straight. Now the next step is to work on our neckline. I'll be working with the 3x3 basic neckline. I'm going to mark 3 inches as the neck width, and I'll also mark 3 inches as my neck depth, and I'm going to go ahead to square that up in order to get the perfect round neck. I'll go ahead to square that up with my ruler. Then I'll proceed to use my curved ruler to form the round neck. You can also use your free hand if you do not have this ruler. As you can see, I later went in with my free hand to do what I just did. Okay, in order to form our shoulder slope, I'm going to connect from this neck area to the shoulder area, just like you see me doing, after which I'll go ahead to calculate my armhole line. And to get your armhole line, you need to divide your bust by 6 plus 1.5 inches. My bust circumference is 38. 38 divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches gives 7.8. That's approximately 8 inches, which I marked. Okay, so I am going to go ahead now to roll that into a straight line, after which I would note what I marked on my shoulder line, which is my shoulder width divided by 2, and that is 7.5. Exactly what I marked on my shoulder line here, I'm going to go ahead to mark it on this armhole line, the 7.5. So I'm going to mark that 7.5 and connect the line to the shoulder area. Okay, after elongating this, of course, and yeah, I'm going to connect that to the shoulder area, and I'm going to label that line AHL as an armhole line. On that line, I'll divide my bust circumference by 4. My bust circumference is 38. 38 divided by 4 is 9.5, which I marked. After doing that, I'll go ahead to divide what I have on this line by 2. What I have there is 8 inches. 8 divided by 2 gives me 4. I'm going to use my marker to note that point, and on that point, I'm going to go in by 0.5 inch, and now I'm going to connect the point to form the armhole curve. So I'm going to connect from this point to the shoulder area, after which I would use the curved ruler to connect from that point to the armhole area. Now on the waistline, I'll divide my waist circumference by 4. My waist circumference is 30. 30 divided by 4 gives me 7.5, which I'll mark. And on the allowance line, I'll mark the same thing as well, the same 7.5, and I'll connect the points. No allowance will be added to this because we're making use of a stretchy fabric. Okay, and I'll label this front bodice pattern, but we're still going to use these same bodies for our back bodies. Okay, so what we just need to do is to alter the neckline and the armhole. For the back neck depth, we'll be working with 1 inch. So I'm going to go ahead to mark that 1 inch, and I'll connect that to the I'll form I won't call it a square, a rectangle at this point. I'll form a rectangle, then I'll go ahead to form the back round neck, just like I did for the front round neck. Okay, the next step is to work on the front armhole line, and to do that, I'm just going to take my curved ruler and connect from that point, that half point, to the armhole area. Okay, since this is a stretchy top and we've not need a zipper allowance, you can see that the neckline and the armhole area are the only differences between the front and the back bodies. So as you can see, I'm cutting the back neckline and the back armhole. Okay, just cut the back alone. Now I got a new piece of paper and I'm going to try and get the midpoint of that paper. Basically, I'm going to draw a straight line on the midpoint of the paper. After doing that, I'm also going to rule the starting point at the top, just to know where I'm starting my sleeves from. Now, the first thing I'm going to mark is my cap height, and my cap height is gotten by dividing my bust circumference by 10 plus 1.5 inches. My bust circumference is 38. 38 divided by 10 gives me 3.8. 3.8 plus 1.2 gives me 5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead to mark 5 inches from that starting point. And I'll go ahead to connect the points to form a straight line. Now guys, we're going to go back to the pattern and I'm going to go ahead to measure my front armhole. And what I have there is 9.5. I'll place that 9.5 on the back armhole and continue my measurement. We're just trying to get the full circumference of our front and back armhole. And what I have there is 18.6. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead to just write that down and I'm going to divide that into 2. After which I will then subtract 0.2 from the answer. 18.6 divided by 2 gives 9.3. 9.3 minus 0.2 gives 9.1. And that 9.1 is what I'm going to go ahead to mark from that top point. So what I'm going to mark at this edge is 9.1. Okay, then I would also do the same thing at the other side. What I'm going to mark at that other side as well is 9.1. Okay, the next step is to divide this line into 3 equal parts. That's 9.1 divided by 3. That's about 3.05 or so. So divide that line into 3 equal parts, after which on the top area you're going to come out by 0.8 inches. Okay, and on the second point you're going to come out by 0.8 inches as well, and you're going to connect the points with your curved ruler. Okay, after doing that, the third point, you are going to just connect this point to that point. Then the last point, you're going to divide the last point into 2 equal parts. That's about 1.5 inches, and go in by 0.2 inch. After which you're going to connect the last point as shown. Okay, so next step is to measure where I want my sleeve to stop. This is a short sleeve, okay, and I want mine to stop at 7.5 inch. Okay, and the allowance is 1 inch, which makes it 8.5 inch. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead to rule the line into a straight line. So I measured the circumference of where I want my sleeve to stop, and that circumference is 14 inches. I want it to be a bit free, not too tight. So what I'm going to do now is divide that 14 inches by 2, and I'm going to mark 7 inches on each side of the line. Okay, so I marked 7 inches here and I marked 7 inches on the other side. On the sleeve length line, I marked the same 7 inches on both sides of the line. Okay, after doing that, I went ahead to connect the points. Connecting the points this way is not right, and you would find out why when I start to cut out the sleeve. But we're going to connect this way first, but just pay attention to understand what I mean. Okay, if you connect your sleeve length area to the allowance this way, when you are hemming your sleeve, you realize that the stuff, the allowance you left is not enough to go around. Okay, so the next step now is to fold the allowance area in. After folding the allowance area in, I'm going to go ahead to use my scissors to cut off the sleeve area. So you see what I mean? You'll see that instead of having that straight shape that we are looking at, see how curved it is. So when you are now hemming your sleeve, it doesn't go around because it is not going to be enough based on the fact that the sleeve is not straight. Okay, so always cut your sleeve allowance this way so that you have, especially if it is a short sleeve, so that you have enough fabric to hem. Okay, now go ahead to fold your sleeve into 2 and proceed to cut out before we adjust the front armhole and adjust the back armhole. Okay, so just go ahead to cut out. Now I'll proceed to label the back area of the sleeve, and I'll label the front area. The difference between the front and the back area is on the front armhole, we're going to go in by 0.5 inches from this point. Then I'm going to proceed to connect the points together, just as shown, and I'll proceed to cut out. Now I'm going to go ahead to cut out on fabric, and to cut out on fabric, I'm going to first of all fold my fabric into two to cut out the back part of this top. First, I'll cut out the back neckline, then I'll cut out the shoulder area, after which I'll cut out the back armhole and proceed to cut out everything else. Okay, after that, I'll use this same pattern to cut out my front pattern. Okay, the difference is just the neckline and the armhole. For the front pattern, I'm going to go ahead to fold the fabric into two again, place the pattern on top, pin it down, and go ahead to cut out. But this time around, we're cutting the front neckline and the front armhole. The next step is to cut out the sleeve. I'm going to fold the fabric into two again and place the sleeve pattern on top of it, open this way, and I'm going to go ahead to pin down, then cut out. After cutting out, I'm going to proceed to notch the front area so that I know the front sleeve area, so that I can fix it on the front armhole area. I hope that makes sense, so that when you're sewing on your sewing machine, it's easier to know which part is for the front and which part is for the back armhole. So just notch. I placed 3 notches on the on the front armhole. Okay, after that, I went ahead to cut out a long strip of fabric to serve as my bias. It was about 27 inches in length and about 1.5 inches in width. I realized that 1 inch is better. I just cut out 1 inch because I later reduced mine. So what you do is to take it to the neckline. First things first, you're going to go ahead to stitch round the neckline, both the front and the back neckline. You can use about 0.5 inch seam allowance depending on your preference. Okay, so I'm going to go to my sewing machine now and stitch. And here's what I have when I was done. What I'm going to do now is to trim off the excess allowance at that point and notch it. And like I said earlier, I said that this 1.5 inch bias tape might be too long, so I went ahead to trim it a little bit. Okay, so after doing that, I went ahead to turn the neckline with the bias. What I did was to fold the bias once at first. After folding it once, I'll fold it again. Okay, so folding it that way, that's how I'm going to fold it round and stitch on my sewing machine. I'm going to stitch towards the edge of that point, and this is how it's going to look like in front. I'll do the same thing for the back part as well. I'll trim off the excess allowance and also stitch. Just for emphasis purpose, I'll fold once and fold the second time and stitch very close to the edge. Just your basic bias neckline turning. This is not something really serious. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead to join the shoulders, and after joining the shoulders, I'm going to go ahead to attach the sleeves. And for the sleeve, I'm going to ensure that they match, that the front sleeve matches with the front armhole. The same, we notched it now, so you have to ensure that the notched part matches with the front area. And to attach the sleeve, you have to first of all notch your sleeve. So I'm going to use my scissors to notch my sleeve to get the midpoint of the sleeve. So after joining the shoulders, I'm going to start from the shoulder to fix my sleeve. I'm going to place them right sides facing each other and stitch from that midpoint. I'll stitch the first area just like I'm showing you, then stitch the second side. Same thing with the other area as well. Now I'm done fixing my sleeve, guys. Now I'm going to stitch the sides using 1 inch seam allowance. Okay, so after stitching the sides, I'll go ahead to hem the base of this top. Okay, I'm going to hem it. I'll also go ahead to hem the base of the sleeve, and that's all. Do not forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so that you'll be the first to receive all my tutorials. Bye.